If you were ever on the fence about Dynasty Warriors, Origins leaves little room for excuses to jump into the iconic Musou series. As the name suggests, Origins is something of a reboot for the series. This game essentially distills the Dynasty Warriors experience into an intimate origin story of the eponymous Three Kingdoms era through the eyes of a nameless hero. It's the perfect place to jump in, and not just because the main character has amnesia and acts as the trope-filled springboard for new players. Dynasty Warriors Origins begins at the very beginning of the Three Kingdoms lore. The Yellow Turban Uprising is blossoming, and the fall of the Han Dynasty is at hand. What we have here is something vastly more story-driven and personal than other games in the series. This almost feels like a JRPG at times, what with the amnesiac protagonist, Bond events, and branching narrative covering the game's latter half. Though this fresh new direction still feels rather limited and in its infancy, it is a welcome one considering the quantity over quality bloat we've been getting with recent titles like Dynasty Warriors 9. This is a much more dialed in experience, something that leaves breathing room and doesn't shy away from intimate character moments. And not to worry, Musou vets, the difficulty isn't sacrificed for the sake of new players here. This game offers plenty of depth and challenge for long-standing players, though some of it veers in the irritating direction. Unfortunately for vets and cadets alike, the gameplay can only be experienced from the perspective of the nameless protagonist. A protagonist who players cannot create themselves or customize with in regards to cosmetics. Yes, despite the perfect opportunity with such a blank slate, Origins has no character creation whatsoever. At least the unnamed amnesiac can wield up to 9 different weapon types with unique arts and combos. There's plenty of variety in that sense, at least. Likewise, the skill tree gives the player some choice in what combat style to prioritize. Want to play as a heavy defensive tank DPS build? The Podeo's massive impact along with defensive-oriented accessories and skills allows you to be an impenetrable stone wall if you wish. And really, I do appreciate just how different each weapon type feels. The aforementioned Podeo is a slow but deadly thing that feels every bit as heavy as it is. And the unique arts that go with the spear make you feel like a high-flying dragoon with its aerial javelin antics, for example. Another plus is you can switch up weapons mid-battle just in case a particular build strategy isn't working well against an army. But even with adequate build options, it's still a bit of a bummer that we can't control a bevy of heroes like you could in past entries. Origins does hand you the reins of 9 historical officers if you choose to partner with them during specific battles, but your control over them is very brief. Guan Hu or Cheng Fei, for example, can accompany you through Liu Bei's specific battles, backing you up every step of the way with some light attacks. When the officer swap gauge fills up enough, you can briefly control them, using unique arts and an ultimate Musou attack at the end of your 2-minute glory rampage. And a rampage it is, since these 9 companion heroes can alter the tide of battle when it's your time to actually control them. They hit twice as hard as the protagonist, and their ultimate attack will decimate waves of troops and bosses in a single blow. So short-lived these hero moments are that it leaves one wanting a bit more. Oh well, our nameless protagonist is still fun to control, even if we can't customize him or switch characters very often. And at least there's some good variety in his playstyle, something later recent Dynasty Warriors titles have lacked despite their 90+ officer rosters. Origins may not have a breathtaking officer roster, but what it does have is depth and characterization within its cast. The historical figures of Three Kingdoms lore are characterized really well here. There's a conscientious attention to detail regarding every character's personality and individual story that just can't be compared to other games in the series. This is easily the most intimate and in-depth we get to these beloved characters in the gaming landscape. As a lone officer, you build relationships with a bevy of these characters and get to see different sides of their personality. Characters are voice acted in English and Japanese, with occasional incidental dialogue getting the text-only treatment. Zhang Fei especially is well portrayed and likable with his rugged personality, ever hesitant to admit how much he appreciates his sworn brothers. There's a lot of wholesome moments that got me to crack a smile or even a laugh. Most of these were through the game's Bond events. The Bond system, while having some really nice character moments, doesn't give quite the player substantive choices of any kind of friendship path. It's simply a series of short hangout cutscenes that add motive, story, and characterization to these popular characters. Bonds tie into gameplay with the various challenges characters give the player. Rank your bond enough with others and you'll receive new challenges and even rewards. Challenges are basically just checklists or small battles, so don't expect too much from them either. The branching paths presented in Chapter 3 fulfill that decision-based gameplay that Bonds don't. The 3 paths in question are in fact the 3 fledgling kingdoms ruled by Liu Bei, Cao Cao, and the ever-radiant Sun Tian. Choosing which fledgling kingdom to support brings you down a unique story route and gameplay experience. My persistent bonding with Dio-chan may not have led anywhere different from any other playthrough, but the choice to back one of 3 kingdoms certainly did. I assume most will side with the friendly entourage of Liu Bei over Cao Cao and Sun Jian's uprisings, but bonds with all 3 of these leaders and their portrayal here is so well done that I was torn on who to ultimately side with. At the end of the day, I'm just impressed the game made me care enough about Cao Cao and Sun Tian's forces to have me consider siding against Liu Bei and his sworn brothers. It's a testament to the quality the characterization has during the first half of the game. Origins provides some solid replayability in this sense. While one route may take 20 hours to complete, the other 2 routes easily crank that playtime up to double that. Part of what makes Dynasty Warriors Origins a 20-hour game is its mostly lean game flow. Unlike Dynasty Warriors 9, Origins isn't set in a bloated open world. No, it doesn't even try to attempt such an endeavor, and I'm thankful that it doesn't. Instead, battles and events are navigated through a compact overworld. You can walk or gallop to main story battles, skirmishes, challenges, bond events, and towns where you buy, sell, and rest. The game's difficulty curve necessitates grind in some spots, but it doesn't feel too arduous despite the combat's repetitiveness at times. Now, don't expect much in the way of exploration. Yeah, there's pyroxene and old coins to collect, materials which level up accessories and provide bond boosts, but there's little else to do than go to your objectives within the overworld. I do wish there was an easier way to navigate between provinces on the map menu screen, since scrolling with the cursor to find where a character or event is can be a bit clunky. Battle and character tabs are helpful, and the instant fast travel is indeed appreciated, but the omission of a province tab feels like a small undersight worth mentioning here. When you're not grinding out skirmish battles or bonding with characters, you're probably engaging in huge story battles. These are the meat and potatoes of Dynasty Warriors Origin, and there's a lot here to love and gripe about for the veteran and newcomer alike. This is a tried and true 1 vs 1000 musou game like the others in the series, with some slight additions that refine things a bit. Although it's unlocked pretty late into the game, having a small squad of troops to command during battles provides a nice strategic layer to the hack and slash core. I only wish more was done with squads. The small repertoire of commands that can be given, from arrow volleys to charges, are fun and useful, but don't remedy one of my biggest gripes with this game, namely responding to desperate fights. A desperate fight is when a fellow officer faces a near-death situation with an opponent, and let me tell you, if you don't respond immediately, it usually spells defeat. You'll often find yourself running from one end of the battlefield to the other, saving multiple officers from defeat. Careful strategic planning and movement can prevent fellow officers from needing consistent aid, but it often requires prior experience with the particular battle to know which positions to defend when. Now, I love the idea of battlefield positioning and management of troop morale, and it's generally done well in this game, but running around responding to desperate fights feels like needless and unfun busywork rather than smart battlefield tactics. Your small squad of troops could have alleviated this with a remote aid reinforcement command to assist struggling officers in different areas of the map, but nope. You're relegated to local commands of your squad, at least for 90% of the playthrough, but hey, at least you have a trusty horse to take you across the battlefield, right? That too isn't unlocked until a little ways into the game, though I do like the mobility and upgrades that you get for the horse later. Running around the map like a headless chicken isn't just an isolated low point with this game though, it also leads to another flaw: inconsistent checkpointing. Origins allows players to recreate the battle upon a loss. Recreating the battlefield essentially gives you a lay of the land with unit positions and a timeline of the action. Most importantly, it lets you choose the specific checkpoint to restart from. This sounds great on paper, sure, but the checkpoints often overwrite each other indiscriminately. This can of course cause headaches because if you make a mistake or just experiment a bit on the battlefield, you may have to checkpoint from that moment, leaving you with a losing hand, so to speak. Even when a checkpoint is clearly positioned at a defining moment of the battle, like a trap being sprung or a sudden surprise change-up of an undefeated flank, defeating a commander or moving between bases can reset the checkpoint to mark your new position. While I do appreciate checkpoints mid-battle, the overriding checkpointing and inability to activate without a game over often made restarting from scratch the more desirable option. After all, the only option you have during combat is to withdraw entirely. The checkpoint system wouldn't be that problematic if it wasn't hindered by the desperate fight annoyances. One of the reasons why officers face desperate fights so often is troop mobs actually form a threat, unlike in past games. You can't just blow huge crowds away like they're ants all the time. Sometimes a couple well-timed parries will take out a large mob, but your squad can also assist with this through volleys and charges, which are always fun to use here. The mobs are balanced to be threatening, yet manageable thanks to their inability to interrupt you during combos. Battles can still feel repetitive at times thanks to some grind and the irritating morale monitoring, but it's not as monotonous as past entries. I do enjoy the emphasis on teamwork in this game, despite some irritants here and there. The large-scale charges are especially invigorating. Galloping alongside Sun Tian and hundreds of his troops against an ocean of troops with shields held high feels like my Lord of the Rings Helm's Deep fantasies come to life. The Hu Lao Gate charge is one such example of what I'd consider peak Dynasty Warriors. With more troops on screen than ever before and all without dips in frame rate, which is great, Dynasty Warriors Origins provides some of the best musou action in the series to date. And with such well-portrayed characters, this is the perfect jumping on point for those seeking some personality behind all the spectacle. So, what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.